Good afternoon, everyone. This is Anne-Marie. Today is Tuesday. It is March the 5th. Markets just closed, taking a look at the formations. If you look at my SPY video yesterday, you'll see that I talked about this level in particular being extremely important. We actually opened right at that level. On top of R2, what do? Press into R3. But let's take a look at the FIB action. The FIB action put us up into the 114 area that I mentioned. Well, it's the halfway spot. It's really 113.9 or something like that. And then the 127.2 event, which was the extension here. Now, we could have something like an ABCD pattern, right? But that would put it up, you know, maybe about here, 155, which I think is pretty legitimate, frankly, right? That's an opportunity. But we could be looking at something else called a deep crab, right? For those of you that dig the harmonics, here we have an 88% retracement. Now, this retracement here may be a little bit shallow, but it's okay. Well, maybe not shallow at all. Maybe that's all right. But that 88 retracement here gives us this wave extension 1618 as a target. That's up here, friends. I'm not really sure that's what we're doing. I like looking at harmonics, but there's no way I'm going to trade them because I'm not going to hold something when it rotates over into support and leaves me in a space. I'd rather just trade the smaller patterns and know that ultimately I'm headed up here. But that's just my personal philosophy. I'm a control freak. I know, shocks a lot of you guys, but it's true. Okay, so what are we looking at tomorrow? We've popped up into here. What do we see with these wicks? Sellers, right? We see sellers here. We've lost R3. We're going to look at the midline between R2 and R3. That's going to be somewhere around here. All right, let's borrow this and slide it up so we can see what's going on. A little bit lower than that ought to be the midline. Eyeballing it, of course, between here and here. Okay, so we've got this area that we're looking at. If we come back into this and bounce, then we've got a really pretty price action. Couple of things happen with the 127.2 retracement event. We usually come into here to bounce to make sure things are all right, that we've passed the levels that we should. And then we rotate to the upside. Sometimes we just hold this midline and accelerate all the way up, which would be up here. We'll be looking at this R4 space, very, very wide price action. But we've got to think about this gap. Overall, the market still has a lot of upside press. Folks, I think a lot of people are trying to get in front of what they see is a short that's coming. And like Brian Shannon says, you know, the market's either going to wear you out or scare you out at some of these spaces. And so as these things press forward, I mean, they're blowing stops of people who are saying, hey, no, this is rollover time. This is definitely rollover time. I'm going to get in front of this trade. And I've been guilty of getting in front of trades. I just don't do it that much anymore, hardly at all, because I don't like my face being peeled with a vegetable peeler. So that's what happens to me a lot of times when I do that. All right, so if we take a look at this, if it fails this region, it can come down into here. When you stage your trade, what is it that you need to look for? Again, if we begin to bounce here and you make a higher low, that's telegraphing a higher high. If sellers are present here, they will force you down into your support region. So if you take the high, if you take the rotation up, let's say you take it up over R3 here, and you take it long, and it moves for a little bit and then begins to reverse, you know that what you've got are a band of sellers here that still have not been absorbed. So you're going to wait and leave your stop right there. So look at how little risk you carry working a trade like that if you just watch the wave. Because frankly, if it comes into here and then fails this level, it is going to rotate more, because what we're doing is retracing this short wave right here. All right? If you ever see me on Twitter and I tell you about, hey, listen, if it holds this level, it should hold this level, but if it doesn't, it's going to blah, blah, blah. A lot of times, you know, a trader told me once, a lot of times you can tell people the information that they need to have to make a trade, but because the skill level is low, they won't know what to do with it. And I find that to be true a lot. So here's something that I'm going to give you. If you ever look at my Twitter feeds, right, and my tweets on what happens at a specific price level, all I'm looking at, folks, is I'm watching for the bounce. Hey, if Facebook holds this level, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. Else, if it fails the level, I'm going to watch for the failure, and I'm going to take the short at the failure of the event. Could it bounce back up and knock me out? Absolutely. But my stop is set relatively tightly because I'm following the general formation that is moving about. Okay? Well, that's all there is to that. Tomorrow's going to be very interesting, right? If we lose this, 50% gap fill seems extremely reasonable. That's also this price event. Watch carefully. Put yourself on smaller time frames. Lower highs and lower lows mean you're in a trend that you can trade. If you've got something that looks different to that, other than lower lows and lower highs, or higher highs and higher lows, you're not in something that's going to give you high probability. Sounding like a broken record, but it seems like people make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Watch the selling volume, how shallow it is relative to the morning buying volume. That's a pretty good signal that there are more people interested in moving up than not, right? That's just how it is right now. Now, it could be that just lots of stops were getting blown and everything was buy, buy, buy until here. But by and large, we've got very, very light selling in comparison to this. Okay? This was kind of a long one, but you know what? Hopefully it helps you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.